Yeah, very much.
Okay. Come back, Matthew. Come back. We're live.
I'm here. I am back.
I thought, don't run away now. You've got a show to do. How are you?
We're here. Only a couple minutes left, but we're here.
Thank you for being patient, everybody, and thank you for being here with us for Fireside Chat tonight. As always, I will do a bit of housekeeping and then I will let Matthew do the really cool stuff. Tonight we're talking about, the royal we, which is Matthew, the Native American culture and medicine tools. And I'm really keen to hear, because I know less than nothing about this, so really keen to hear what you've got to say. Please make it a party. The more people, the better. We thoroughly encourage you to hit the little button with the arrow that goes that way, or even invite people to come along and join us, or join Matthew and join everybody and ask questions.
Yes.
Ask questions, because wasn't that so much fun when people were asking the questions the last couple of weeks?
The last couple of weeks have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it's a subject too, but hopefully tonight will create some interest as well.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely fascinated. I just want to say that we're actually live inside of the community as well. We're the Meditation with Matthew community. And so I'm going to say hi to Kylie here, because you can actually see her face and see her name. And if you're inside of the community, we only see a silhouette. And it says Facebook user. So it's not that we're ignoring you. It's just that from the dashboard of the Be Live program that we're using, we actually can't pick up if you're in a group and you haven't given Facebook permission or Be Live permission to access your name and your profile picture. This is what we see. So hi to you. just so you know, that's inside of the Meditation with Matthew community, and you will have an opportunity to join that community if you like. Actually, can I do that now, Matthew? Because you may forget.
Go for it. You have the floor.
I have the floor. I'm going to make the most of it here. Well, I can. All right. So I just want to pop this one in. And this is a meditation with Matthew, which is on Monday fortnightly. And the next one is on upcoming Monday night. And you will see that I think that popped the link into the stream. Yes, there we go. All right. So there is a link there. If you would like to join, please come over and join the community. You're more than welcome to be there. So now you don't have to plug that one, just the other stuff. Right. So while we're moving on with it, then you will notice if you make a comment not in the group, but if you are on Matthew Greenwood's Spiritual Journeys page and you make a comment, you will get a message inside of the chat bot or your messenger from a chat bot that says, hi, you can register for a spirit guide reading. If you have already been in there and gone through the process, you don't need to do it again. You are automatically registered, so you don't have to give a Shrima every week. That's fine. If you are, if you're not, and you would like to register for a chance to win a spirit guide reading, you can go through and register. It's just basically follow the bouncy ball, but wait until later if you want. Just hang out here for the next hour or so and catch these goodies. We are also on other pages. We're cross-posted to pages like My Time TV, Be Live in 5, and some other pages. So if you see us on those pages, you will, and you want to make a comment, you'll need to come over to Matthew Greenwood Spiritual Journeys and comment here live. Ask your questions live. Otherwise, Matthew will miss them because we won't see them in the dashboard of this program.
And I want to see your questions.
And we want to see your questions. On that note, the other thing is, if you do want to download the ultimate grounding exercise, that is also in the chat bot. You'll get an opportunity to do that through Facebook Messenger if you make a comment in the thread from the Matthew Greenwood Spiritual Journeys page. So it's over to you to announce the winner from last week's Fireside chat. I'm going to go. I will see you on the flip side.
All righty. Thanks, Adair. Okay, guys, how are you? Just a few quick hellos before we go too far. Hi, Christina, Donna, Kylie, and Fiona, and Clay, Catherine Britton from New Zealand, and Doogie. Excellent. Good to see those faces and names. So the winner from last week for this week is Nicole Chapman, and I do believe she's in New Zealand. So we'll get a message to you, Nicole, and we'll line something up. Okay, so for tonight, I'm going to be talking a little bit about I'd call it an incredible journey that I had back in 2001, and the continuing connection that I've had with members of the Lakota culture in South Dakota, US. And it will be, I believe that's Hayden, so Hayden's partner. So Hayden's from New Zealand too. Excellent. So yeah, I had an incredible time over there for 5 months initially, but I'll get to that. And I was totally immersed in the Lakota culture, and you just couldn't pay money for that. It was an amazing experience. But I'll let you know the lead up to it as well and how it all came to be. So first up, we're going to do that little grounding exercise because it's definitely needed for everyone. Everyone's going through a lot of stuff as usual. It's just this year, 2020 is a big one, as we've worked out. So let's go into calm mode and take some nice deep breaths. So if you close your eyes and just begin by taking some nice deep breaths, allowing about 4 seconds for every breath in and 4 seconds for every breath out. Knowing that every conscious breath you take, you're actually tapping into life force. And that's what we want. We want nice, clean supply of life force. Not having taken it from anyone else, we want it pure from where it comes from, either the earth or the universe. Through things like this, meditation or other processes where the breath is really important for. Okay, so with the next deep breath in, taking a nice full one in, and then with the breath out, pushing that energy you've just breathed in down through your body, your base chakra, your legs, your feet, and down into the earth. Beautiful. So it shouldn't take you guys very long at all for this if you've been doing it on and off. All right, so from there, next step is going deeper into the earth. So we have many chakras below the feet, and we're going down to the deepest one, right down at the core of the earth. Yes, our energy system goes that far. And with the next deep breath in, pulling that life force in again, and then with the breath out, pushing that life force right down to the core of the earth, down to your earth chakra, the deepest chakra point we have within our energy system, which just happens to link up with the earth's core chakra. When we activate ours, we naturally flow in with that core chakra that the earth has. There's a synergy between the two. And it also helps us to link in with every other heart-connected spiritual culture on the planet. And spiritual individuals too. So once you've got that, Just allowing your breath to relax now. So now we're just going to go into a different aspect of our energy system beyond the chakra system. I'd like you to imagine diving your awareness into the center of your body. We're going to be accessing what's called our core star energy, or the God force within. So as you dive into the center of your physical body, knowing that we're far more than physical, just keep diving even deeper. So as you dive deeper into your being, keep going until you see or feel a high vibrational energy source. Shouldn't need to take too long. You'll get some sort of connection with it, whether it be just a sensing, a feeling, a seeing. So as you connect with it, now begin to expand that light out, that energy source out, to fill your energy system from within, then filling up your physical body with light, knowing that what you're doing is actually activating every cell in your body. It's connecting with that light also, which helps to raise your frequency. Now, just a side issue, doing this, particularly making sure that you're grounded and accessing that high vibrational energy of your core star, what this does is makes your body stronger. Your physical body is much stronger and can cope with a lot of toxins. It can also cope with viruses. Guess what I'm talking about? Yes, COVID-19. Da 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 da. You raise your frequency continuously with that, you'll be impervious to that. So keep connecting with that light. Now begin to expand it out beyond your physical body. To start with, into the major 7 energy bodies around the physical and through the physical, approximately 3 to 4 meters out in all directions. So you're filling that whole space with light. Beautiful. Keep going with that. Now, as it begins to fill, what we're going to do now is let it explode out in a couple of seconds. So on the count of 3, get ready to just let it loose. 1, 2, 3. Let it go. Imagine that light expanding out throughout the universe. Don't limit yourself to what your belief system is on how expansive your energy can be. Just keep expanding it out. Beautiful. Okay, so now just bringing your awareness back to your physical. You don't need to pull that light in. You're allowed to keep it expansive. It can be a very protective tool to use. But now bringing your presence back to your physical. And we're going to go do that grounding just one more time. Just the base chakra is enough. So now breathing in that life force, and then with the breath out, pushing that life force down through your body, your base chakra, down through your legs, your feet, and down into the earth. And you should be back. it's not a long and involved process. In fact, I'm stretching it out so that everyone can be a part of it. But once you've done it a few times, it will get quicker and it will get stronger. So, highly suggest, if you want to feel good about life, feel good about yourself, feel stable in your energy, then keep doing that grounding exercise at least twice a day. It shouldn't take any longer than about, I do it in between each client, I do it morning and evening. It shouldn't take any longer once you've been doing it a few times than about 30 seconds max. You should be able to whittle it down to about 20 to 30 seconds. All right, guys. So, congratulations, Nicole Chapman, and we'll be contacting you, and you'll be getting a free spirit guide reading. So, let's talk about the Native American culture. Well, look, I'm going to be a bit more specific because my experience, my first-hand experience, and this is mainly all I'm going to talk about because, I mean, I've read a lot of books about the Native American culture, but I want to share what I've learned and what I've experienced and what I know, and also what I use in the shamanism that I work with and teach. So, wow, where do I begin? So, what got me there in the first place was, believe it or not, a really messy relationship that was an on again, off again thing that was driving us both nuts. This is going back to pre 2001. And so we ended up going to a counsellor that neither one of us knew. We wanted to keep it neutral. Counsellor helped us to go our separate ways. Then what happened after that, I went along for a couple more sessions just because I felt like I was getting a lot out of it. And then at the end of the last session that I saw her, she looked at me and she said, "So Matthew, you know, you've got a fresh slate to start with. What do you want to do and with your life?" And I said, "I want to go to America." It's the first thing that came out of my mouth. And then she looked at me and she said, "So where in America?" And I said, "Look, of all places, South Dakota." Not too many people want to go to South Dakota. They want to go to New York or California or something like that, or the snowfields in Canada. And she looked at me again a little bit deeply, or actually looking through me. And she said, or she asked me, "So where in South Dakota?" And I said, "Either Rosebud or Pine Ridge Indian Reservation." She just laughed her head off and she said, "My grandfather lives on Pine Ridge and he's full blood Oglala Sioux." Now, that just floored me when she said that. So, long story short, she gave me a whole lot of information on all of the reservations in the mid-north, which is the Sioux culture mostly. The Sioux culture represents many different tribes. The name Sioux is not Native American. It's been taken on by the different cultures, the different tribes, because what it is, it's a name the French gave the Plains Indians in that area, the mid-north of America, because they were mostly cohesive, the majority of the tribes, and they had a lot of similarities between them, particularly the fact that they stayed in teepees because they were mobile, unlike a lot of the tribes in the southern desert regions, down near New Mexico and any of the desert regions down south where they were doing farming. The the Sioux culture were basically nomadic. They would stay in one camp for periods of time, depending on the weather, whether it was cold, because even South Dakota, which is one state from the top of the US, where the border is between US and Canada, You've got North Dakota, which is basically right in the middle at the top, and then you've got South Dakota below it. So it gets very cold. They get blizzards there, and they get the heat we get too. So they get the full extreme. And so they would travel when, depending on what the weather was, and also remember that their main source of food was buffalo. And that was one of the main reasons why teepees were created. It was a mobile house. And they had horses. Once they had horses weren't native to North America, but horses were imported, I think, to begin with by the Spaniards back in the 1400s and 1500s, and then by the French and the English trappers, and then when white settlements started, more horses came in. Once the different native cultures had horses, they were much more powerful. They were faster, stronger, and much more able to hunt buffalo then too, because buffalo, they're fast. They might look bulky. A full-size buffalo, a full-size male buffalo, can weigh up to 2.5 ton. They can run and get to the speed very quickly, 80 kilometers an hour. And so that's pretty fast. And they can also turn very quickly at speed. So these animals were not for a native culture or individuals trying to hunt them on foot. It would be a difficult thing. So once they got horses, it was amazing for them. But it also helped to move the teepees around too. So, pardon me. So what I am going to ask for you guys to do is, I'm not going to ask for questions yet, but I mean, you can certainly put questions down, because I'm happy to take questions. And I think it will be great to see what interest you have in the culture. Okay, so where to start? So I was lucky enough to be given all these names and phone numbers, and so I just kept bringing and writing letters until I got connection with one of the elders, one of the tribal leaders, and which I did with the head, one of the tribal leaders on Rosebud Indian Reservation. It was an immediate connection as soon as I started talking with him. Very genuine connection, and so I spoke for long periods of time on the phone with him. I didn't care how much it cost me. This was amazing to have this connection. So we talked about all kinds of things, from my woodwork, because I'm an ex-furniture maker, to spiritually what was going on for me. And so what he managed to set up was, he asked me if I could teach woodwork, and I said yes. And so he asked me if I'd put together a course for their college, their trade college. I didn't even know they had a trade college. So what ended up happening was I got a job teaching part-time in the college. And also I was set up to live with a family, a traditional Lakota family, live in houses and everything. But they're very spiritual. They follow certain rituals and ceremonies that go on right throughout the year, and which I ended up becoming a part of, many of those things, when I moved there for that period of time. So I was over there for about 5 months, I believe. And I was actually there when the Twin Towers came down in New York. And so it was a very powerful time. So when I was on the reservation, it was amazing to meet so many Native American people. There were times when I just felt like I fitted in beautifully over there. And there were times when I would look around me and I couldn't see any white people anywhere, and I just felt very at peace with that. And there was never any feeling of judgment, and I feel energy pretty strongly, so there was never any feeling of that. When you consider what the Native American culture has gone through over the years, no different. Pardon me. No different to the Aboriginal culture, no different to the African culture, South American culture, wherever there's been any white settlement, and the Maori culture too. So they've all been, let's say, in those first interactions with particularly the English. The Spanish were probably just as bad as the English. They all had the same way about them, which was to divide and conquer, and which is still in place in certain areas. The typical thing in the early days for the Native American culture was just exactly how the Aboriginal culture here were treated. The children were stolen. They were taken away from the families. They were made to cut their hair. They were made to dress up in white people's clothes. Not allowed to speak their language. Not allowed to do prayer or ceremony unless it was to the white people's god, whichever god that was, because there were, just on Rosebud Indian Reservation, there's about 7 different churches, different different denominations of churches, and so there's a fair good old religious indoctrination that's been done to the culture. Sounds like I'm bashing the white settlement, but they've got a lot to be responsible for. So what ended up happening with the native with the Lakota culture, and this is all of the native cultures, they were basically, like I said, the children were taken away to brainwash, and what then was done was they would take the medicine ways away from the culture, from the people. So through religion and through the government officials, it was brainwashed to the people that those medicine ways were evil. And you wouldn't think, having had that for so many thousands of years, that those medicine ways, they could do that. But it didn't take that long to affect the people. And this happened in a very, very short period of time. The amount of fear that was generated by the government sources and religious sources around the medicine ways being evil. Now, this is an indicator of how stuck the white people were in their ways with the native cultures in the States. So the ceremonies were outlawed. So all ceremonies were outlawed on the reservations. And it wasn't until the 1970s, I believe, that ceremonies were allowed to be done again. And this was only because it wasn't the fact that the government officials allowed them to. The elders at the time had had enough, and they just basically revolted, and they just continued to do ceremonies, because this is, from my experience being on the reservation, there's 80% roughly unemployment rate. There is there's issues with drugs, alcohol. Of course, when there's that much unemployment rate, it's difficult to have good cohesion within the communities. And so, stuff goes on, and it's not pretty everywhere. A lot of people have this romanticized version of how it is to be on a reservation, and it's not pretty all the time. Not to say that there aren't some wonderful people there and that great things do happen, because they do. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes on as well. So what I was introduced to very quickly when I was picked up from a bus station just out of the reservation, by a man called Gary Hacker, who is now my brother. We went through a ceremony over there, and he is Lakota. And so he picked me up and he said, "Look, we're gonna drop your clothes off, and then we're gonna go out and pick a buddy of his up. His name is Pat Badhand, and he was on a vision quest. We were told not to talk to him, or I was told not to talk to him. He would be the first one to talk, because he'd been out for 4 days and 4 nights without food or water on a hill, praying to help him work through some personal issues that he had. And so this was getting thrown into the deep end. And so I was ready to, just to do whatever I had to do. And so we picked him up. What I found out was we were heading for a sweat lodge. And I'll explain what a sweat lodge is in a sec. So we went into the sweat lodge, and then Pat, when he was ready, the prayers were said, and then he spoke about his experience. Now he generally with these guys, because they're fairly close-knit group of guys, they speak their language, which is Lakota. And but he knew that I was going to be there, and so he spoke in English for me, and which I didn't realize that until afterwards. And so I was very humbled when I heard that. And he told us about the issues that he was going through, which, look, I won't share it. It's personal, and I know Pat. He's a lovely guy, and but the issues he was having was affecting his family, his work, friends, and so he needed to clear this out of his system. And he talked about the time that he was out there, because it's 4 days and 4 nights without food and water is a long time. And so what he did was, by the third morning, he said to us that he had trouble staying awake, because the whole idea is you stay awake to be in prayer. And what happened was, he started to fall asleep, and he didn't know quite how long he'd dropped off for, but he was sitting up, and all he remembers was waking up to a bit of light just coming through his eyelids, but what he could feel was hot breath on his face. And he didn't know whether he was hallucinating, because that can happen. No food and no water for 3 days. You can go into a state where you can get hallucinations. And so he wasn't sure what was going on, whether this was real or not. Well, it was real on some level. So he ventured by opening his eyes up, and what he was faced with, and he said this was real, it wasn't just a vision, it was real. He was faced with a full-grown male buffalo, which, like I said, can be up to 2.5 tons, and these guys are wild. all of the buffalo on the reservation, and they do have a couple of herds, but they're still wild animals. They're not like our docile cows, which are pretty much scared of us. We're the ones that need to be scared of them because they're huge and they can kill you very easily, particularly at certain times of the year. And so what happened for him, this buffalo stayed face to face with him, nose to nose with him, for a short period of time until his energy was built up again to get him through that third day and the fourth. And he said he didn't have any trouble staying awake through that time and staying focused on what he was there for after that. And I got to say, you know, being in that sweat lodge with these guys, I was impacted heavily by this, and I don't mind admitting I cried through that because it was quite an emotional experience to hear his words, his very humble words. And this is what these guys are like, you know, the men and the women that I've met over there. They're no different to us. We have our personal problems, and so do they. But they hold a particular strength within them, and it's consistent with all of the people that continue with those medicine ways. With the equivalent would be smudging on a regular basis, prayer on a regular basis, sweat lodges, which, and I did say I was going to explain what that is, and I will in a sec. These are the things that hold that culture together and hold the people together. Now, this is what we're learning now, and we're starting to get in line with this. So, you know, spiritual growth on the planet, and I've said this before, is just going through the roof. And what we need more so is good, grounded, clear information on how we can stay stable in our lives. All right, so let's talk about sweat lodges, because that's probably one of the biggest things that some people have experienced over here. I've run sweat lodges in the past, and I've certainly experienced them over in the States, the way the Lakota people run them. Now, a sweat lodge, and the correct name, the Lakota name for sweat lodge is Inipi, and it's an Inipi ceremony. So an Inipi it's a little bit, looks like an igloo without the little kind of entry. There's just a flap, so it's a pine sapling frame, which is a dome shape. It's normally, traditionally, it would have been covered by buffalo hides. These days, they just use canvas. And what happens is it's fairly low, so you would kneel and crawl in. Rocks would be heated in a fire outside of the inipi, and there would be a firekeeper that manages the rocks and is preparing them to be at a certain temperature so that they'll last through the sweat. Then there's a pit in the center. The pit's normally about, say in the old language, 6 inches deep, roughly 15 centimeters deep. And it might be about, again, about 2.5 foot round, 2 foot round probably. And that's where the rocks are placed. And there is a certain way that the rocks are brought in. They shouldn't touch the ground. They're normally brought in with a pitchfork these days, but in the old days they would have used deer antlers. And quite often the medicine man or whoever is actually in the sweat lodge and maneuvering those rocks around in the pit, he uses antlers. It's traditional. But the rocks are not to touch the ground until it goes into that pit in the center, because it goes straight from that sacred fire to the pit. So this is a spiritual ceremony, and it's about cleansing and purification. Um, in that, it's normally done over 4 rounds, and in each round, generally 7 rocks are placed in the pit. Now, each round would generally go for approximately, could be anything up to 20 minutes, and then about a 5 to 10 minute gap in between where the flaps open. So it gets pretty hot when there's all of the rocks are in there. It can get really hot, but it's meant to take you through a process of cleansing physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's the sort of place that you get vision in. And look, what I'm going to do is time flies really quick when I'm doing these talks. So I want to go to a few questions. Well, here's one. Alison Coles. I had the privilege to go to Alaspia Indian Reservation in Arizona. A very humbling experience. Oh, I'd love to hear what happened, Alison, at some point. Most of the native cultures have sweat lodges. It's a pretty much across the board thing. And it's done particularly at certain times of the year, but generally it can be done at any time. And so Doogie's asking, isn't the intention of a vision quest to hallucinate? I guess, yeah, to get vision, the word hallucination kind of has a little bit of unsurety about what it actually means. Vision is really what people are looking for in a vision quest. It's actually the Lakota name, if I get this right, is Habashlia, which means it's not about, it actually doesn't describe getting a vision. It actually is about going up onto the hill to cry. So it's about release, about letting go of whatever it is that is affecting your life. And that's why you would go on a vision quest. You wouldn't go on a vision quest just for the hell of it. It would be for a reason, a particular reason. It's not like, I've been on a vision quest now, I can get a tattoo for that. It would be a spiritual purpose that would take them on a vision quest. And so, Troy Delane, Empire of the Summer Moon, book based on the amazing story about the Comanche. Great read. Thanks, Troy. Fiona, can you speak about totem animals, please? Sure. Look, any animal can be a totem animal. Sometimes those totem animals are for a reason. So every animal has a different, or bird has a particular energy about it. And they can come up in our vision, in our meditations, which really, that's what visions are. Visions, we can sort of, sometimes we're talking about the same thing. When Native Americans talk about having visions, it can be like going through a meditation. So if you get a particular animal coming up in a meditation that you do, and that animal is with you for a while, that can be a totem animal for you. And sometimes there are certain animals that become very much power animals for you that really resonate. For me, bear resonates, and I feel that very strong with me. And it's just a feeling. And I've heard stories about the fact that if you're part of the wolf clan or the bear clan, it doesn't mean your whole tribe is a wolf clan, but your totem is wolf energy and it's very strong with you, then you would wear on you somewhere something that is representative of the wolf. It might be wolf teeth, wolf claws, a wolf's fur on your back, with the head on the top of your head. But what I've heard happens is when you go into battle with another tribe and you're confronted with a member from the other tribe who would be wearing the similar sort of adornments that would relate to the wolf clan, then quite often they would choose not to fight with each other because they have the same energy, or they hold a similar energy. So they see themselves as much more deeply connected, even though it's an opposing tribe. May not be the case for all tribes, but I have heard that story from an elder once. So all animals can be a totem for you for a period of time, or for life. And so Linda's asking, I could listen to this topic all night. Thanks, Linda. Daniel's, traditionally would one do a vision quest and follow it up with a sweat lodge? Yes. So generally, it started with a sweat lodge and it's finished with a sweat lodge. So what I came to when I'd been picked up from the bus station was I came to the end of the vision quest for Pat, and so this was seeing the last part of the vision quest. On a recent trip a few years ago, I was a part of helping a young guy, or I was invited into a sweat lodge with a young guy and other members who were supporting him through a vision quest. So I got to see the beginning of a vision quest through the traditions that the Lakota do. And so the sweat lodge was first, and then we took him, again, no words were said. We took him up onto a spot that he chose that was already prepared for him. There was a buffalo robe there. There was it was staked out like about 8 foot square, I think it was, and that's where he stayed within those 4 stakes. He was there for 2 days, I believe. So Trish Brown, sorry I've come in late. Have you discussed White Buffalo Calf Woman? No, I haven't, Trish. So this is a fairly big one. We don't have a lot of time left. It goes so quick, like I said. It's 10 to 8 already. I'll try and do this really quick. It needs the energy for it. So White Buffalo Calf Woman was a spirit that came to the Lakota people at a time when there was disharmony, when there was not just between tribes, but within the tribes. And how she came was 2 scouts were out, they suspect, looking for buffalo. And Adair saying, time for a quick ad break. Okay, I got that message. What Adair's referring to are workshops coming up. So I just want to have a quick break and just talk about very quickly a workshop that I've got coming up in a couple of weeks about the energy system, about auras and chakras. And this is going to be quite impacting for the people that are already booked in. And I invite people to talk with me if they would like to at some point. Happy for you to give me a call on 0410 658 797. And here she is. And what I'll do is I'm happy to talk more about this, but we're going to be going into great depth with each night. So it's over 8 weeks. with one chakra and the corresponding energy body that aligns with that chakra. So there's quite a lot of connection between the two. What I found in the past is that when doing this workshop, people through that following week, after having done whatever chakra and energy body that we were learning, they had a lot of experiences in their life around that. So around that energy body and chakra, it was like the universe was providing a classroom for them. So got quite a lot of other workshops coming up as well, but mostly they're filling up. So the only thing I will suggest, if you want to come along to a teepee meditation here in South Australia, Riverdale Spiritual Centre, the teepee I've been using for 10 years or so now, is at Riverdale, and it's just been freshly painted, partly, and there'll be meditations for the next 3 Friday nights, starting tomorrow night. So hope to see you along then. Bookings have to be done through Riverdale, and there's also a night I'm going to be talking about spirit guides there too. So it's all on the website. So have a look, guys. All right, back to White Buffalo Calf Woman. So these 2 scouts were up on a hill and they saw this person far off in the distance. And as she got closer, they could see she was female, and she came right up to them and could feel that they were both quite different in their approach and in their mannerisms. And one of the scouts was very spiritual and very respectful. The other one wasn't. He was more interested in her physically. And apparently she was beautiful, long hair, very light-coloured deerskin robe on. And so what she did, she went up to the man that just saw her as physical. A cloud of smoke encircled both of them, and when the smoke disappeared, there were just bones left. And then she said to the other scout to go back to the elders of his people and to let them know that she was coming and she was going to be bringing them something. And so when she came back a few days later, the people were already prepared, and they welcomed her in. She talked to the leaders about the 7 sacred ceremonies of the pipe, the Chinumpa, and this is where the sacred pipe that is held by Chief Arvel Looking Horse, still, it's been handed down from generation to generation, and he holds this sacred pipe now. And so if you ever want to hear him speak, he's a beautiful guy when he speaks. So Chief Arvel Looking Horse. And so when she went in, she explained the different ceremonies with this pipe. And then when she left, she walked away, rolled onto the ground, and when she came up, she was a buffalo. And the prophecy was that in the return, this is like for the Christians when the second coming happens, that's when Christ will appear. Well, for the Lakota people, it's when the white buffalo is born, the spirits will return. And this is what's happened now. I think for the last couple of decades, white buffaloes have been born, and at different times. And this is foretelling the fact that there are going to be great things happening, but there are also going to be some bad things happening, which is what's going on now. And so we're in a very tentative time for all of us. But this is a time that all of the tribes are aware of, and they all call it a coming together of the tribes, and that includes us. So we're part of that. Okay. So there's some links up here to Chief Arvel Looking Horse. All right. So what I was going to do was show you my ceremonial pipe. So if you can see that. So this section here, which I'll take apart, this section here is stone. Now, the traditional way for a pipe carrier to receive a pipe is generally by being given a piece of pipestone. So this pipestone comes from one place only in the US, and it's called the Sacred Pipestone Quarry in Minnesota. And if you have a look at this place, it's right in the middle of the states of North America, basically. And this is where the different tribes and different individuals from the tribes would get their pipestone. Now, the stories go that this is the natural color of it too, red, deep red. And it's said that this is where Great Spirit bled into the earth for the people. And so when a pipe is made, when a ceremonial pipe is made from pipestone, this is like a link to Great Spirit. And it's treated as incredibly sacred and with great respect. And so normally this pipe wouldn't be together. I'd have it separated when it's not in use, but just for the evening, I've pieced it together. So I created this pipe, but an elder handed me that piece of pipestone on that first trip that I went over to the States with. So, and I've since made other pipes for people, ceremonial pipes, and also I've made I think 3 pipes now for Native Americans too, for people from the Lakota tribe. So it's kind of a nice feeling to do that, to give back. Donna's saying, I've been working with white buffalo a lot recently. Right, very good. So Adair's asking what's it made of. So that's the stone. The stem, just put it back together. So this is an eagle feather. And this was actually given to me as part of being adopted into a family over there. And so that's why I have it on the pipe. The timber is hewn pine and she oak at the end, the mouthpiece. And so that's obviously, that's meant to be an eagle's claw holding a bowl, and that's where the tobacco would be smoked from. And it is tobacco, it's nothing else, no happy weed or anything like that. So the Lakota people would have grown their own tobacco, and it would have grown wild. So that's one thing. I thought we'd talk about some medicine tools, just if we can fit that in. So this is an eagle fan that I used for smudging. So what this is the end of an eagle's wing. This was found up in the Flinders. This is one of our eagles. And it's basically an intact length of wing. If you imagine the wrist of the wing, that's that intact. So they're the fingers, the feathers they call the fingers, which stick out on the end of the wing. And this is what I use for smudging. And so if people don't know about smudging, it's normally you would burn sage in an abalone shell, and that shell, the smoke coming from the shell, would then be swept with the eagle wing over the person that you're smudging. Or you may be smudging the pipe just to cleanse it, purify it. Here's a medicine rattle. So that's one shape. So I actually make these. There's a buffalo. Now these can be painted. And there's a horse. So they can be decorated. They haven't been, but I make them up out of deer hide. And what else we got? Drums. I said about bear being my totem, so there's one of my drums. And of course I make drums too, and I've got a drum making workshop coming up this weekend. That's another shape. Now, Adair's throwing questions at me. Do you have any stock of sage? Yes, I do. Not a lot. Troy, yes, it is a wedge tail wing. I don't have a lot of sage left, but I can sell one bag per person. So I'm having trouble getting hold of it. So it needs to be shared around. And Kylie, I was going to ask you about rattles. I'm planning to make some with my leftover hide. Yep, look, I was going to do a rattle making workshop probably through New Year, Christmas, something like that. And Donna is making drum stands now. So I'm going to point the computer around because we're running out of time a little bit now. If you can, it's a bit hard to see. Voila. So our in-house blacksmith, Donna, who I've known for some time as a client and now as someone I've purchased a drum stand from, is doing awesome work with blacksmithing. So there you go. Now, Fiona has asked, do you hold drumming sessions anywhere? We used to have them in Mount Crawford Forest, but not recently. Really miss it. The energy was magical. Well, Fiona, the teepee is going to be in use at some point in the near future for drumming. So I'll be putting it out there when we're able to. And Mount Crawford is a great place to do it as well. So it could be either or, Mount Crawford Forest or in the teepee. It's great at night with the fire going in the teepee. So guys, look, I've only really scratched the surface on what I've learned. You can learn so much. It's not like going to school over there. Well, it is a bit. You've just got to be taking the information in whenever you can, and just listening and feeling the words that you're being given by the people, because it's amazing to be around them, because with all of the things that have happened to them through white white intervention in their lives. They bear no grudge against Aussies, or they, in fact, they like Australians because they're actually very interested in the Aboriginal culture. This was one personal thing. When I was going over there for the first time, I wanted to bring a gift over, and I said to Gary, look, I want to bring something, but I need to know what your interests are. First thing he said was, if you can bring over a book about Aboriginal spirituality, and that was what he was interested in. And it just goes to show, and a lot of the culture, a lot of the different native cultures on the planet are so similar. When you start hearing about their ceremonies, it's incredibly powerful. And yeah, so it's been an interesting time. There was a beautiful elder that I spent a lot of time with, Albert Whitehat Senior, and he talked to me on the quiet, and he said, "Look, we can't come over to Australia, but you learn from us and take it back and show the people." And all he was interested in was helping people, and that's how I am too. And we're here to do so much more than just watch TV and live a mundane life. We're here to help people to open up spiritually. This time is so important. So we need to be doing and helping people in whatever way, shape, or form we can be. Um, it's so needed, and it's so important that people get good grounded information, and that's why I do what I do. And I think having good medicine tools are very important. So I do supply a lot of people with that stuff. I've got a lot of abalone shells, I've got rattles, drums for sale. But also I do workshops because that's important for you to have your energy in your medicine tools. And it makes it just that much more powerful. And it's the process we go through too. There's always ceremony that's brought into the day whenever you're making anything, because it's a union of your energy, the energy of the deer skin, of the timber, the frame, and of your intentions with the drum or with the medicine item. So look, maybe next week I'll do a further talk on the Native American culture, because this can go a lot of places. So if you're interested in coming back, I can definitely talk more. Pardon me. And I'll continue on with more information next week. And I hope you have a great weekend. And yeah, we'll catch up with you hopefully next Thursday or even Monday. So Monday night meditation. So guys, have a great time. And if you've got any questions, throw them at us. And even if you want to have a chat on the phone, I'm open to that. So look after yourselves, be safe, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now.